You've got a panel conversation going on. Really quickly about you in one line, what is it that excites you? Why are you involved in this conversation?
Oh, like I'm in love with mobility and electromobility. So that's the topic which is the most important for me here. But I think IoT is just the technology that drives the electromobility and the car industry itself.
Excellent. Well, the stage is yours. Introduce your panelists.
Sure. So we'll talk today with Artur Czerwiński, who's from Cisco, who's the head of business development and who focuses a lot on IoT. Please come on stage, Artur. And with Christophe Durand from Sickfox, who's in charge of country expansion in Europe. Hello, sirs. That's really interesting because we will talk about IoT for transportation services, and there is no one from the car industry on the stage. That's how...
That's how the story seems to be with the convergence of technologies related to the usage of the IoT. If I may be the first commenting, yes.
Yeah, sure.
Cisco, as a global leader in data transmission, video communication, and cybersecurity, has a luxury to be engaged in the projects with the partners from all of the segments relevant for the transportation industry. I mean, car manufacturing, modern road construction, and municipalities. And from this perspective, we see certain patterns which are repeatable, relevant to the IoT deployment. At first, this is transformation of existing product or service, then convergence, merging different things from different technology and business segments, then optimization, which happens. And on top of this, in all of those separate segments, we see new services being developed from various stakeholders. That's the frame, the umbrella, which we see. I can go into details, but maybe my colleague will comment something from his perspective.
Yeah, sure, Christophe.
Yes. So Sickfox is providing the connectivity service, which is definitely optimized to provide low cost, the lowest cost to extract data from the field. And as my colleague from Cisco explains, the main thing is not about the data. The main thing is about the service that the specific application will be able to bring to the customer. So to create that service, they need to extract and aggregate data from many sources. They don't necessarily need to own that data, but they need to get access to it. And this is really the trend that we're seeing in IoT and in transportation in general.
So basically, if I understand correctly, whenever it comes to transport as a service or mobility as a service, it all comes down to gathering data.
And process them. But you need to collect them easily without having to take care of the devices, i.e. devices shall remain low cost. If you want to monitor traffic, if you want to monitor temperature, if you want to monitor pollution to generate pollution alerts and stop the traffic, you want sensors that are deployed, you forget them, you just get access to the data. This is what Sickfox is trying to achieve, and then platforms and solutions will build services on top of that.
True, and it starts from the car itself. Today, we still see the car as a vehicle, and main purpose is always the same. Yes, it's something which helps us to commute. But then, right now, it goes through huge transformation, which is behind, which we don't see as end users. We have a luxury as Cisco to cooperate with strategic initiative, where we combine our forces with one of the global car manufacturers to launch, and it's going to happen next year, as a new product, next generation car. And this next generation is about car becoming mobile data center from IT perspective. And it starts from the very, very technical hardware details. For instance, unifying infrastructure. Today, cars have kilometers of cables which are dedicated to different subsystems. One of the major transitions from just this perspective is to unify cabling infrastructure, which will allow communication of various sensors. Today, if we talk about autonomous cars, those cars are full of sensors. It is data transmission, at first data gathering. So to optimize this, it's good to have infrastructure, which is very similar to what we have in the computer networks today, utilized in the buildings in our offices. So in fact, the computer network starts becoming the heart of the vehicle, and it connects all of the sensors. And on top of this, we can consider again the data layer, which is similar to what we see in the smartphones. So car is becoming a kind of service layer as well, because we may consider the same as we use smartphones, applications we can download to the car. A car manufacturer can upload or download different information. They can attach services on the fly to the car, so we don't need to go to the maintenance mode, visit the service. We can simply wait for some new feature to come, exactly the same way as we see this on the smartphones. And here it comes another thing. As the data center collects the data, the precious data about vehicle, ourselves as users, it must be protected in a different way. So another dimension is cybersecurity, where the car will be equipped in something which we know from the office buildings, like firewall, protecting us from the intruders attacking the car from internet. So those are the components which a couple of years ago were not even considered as a heart of the new modern car, and it happens right now as we speak. This is just one area. Yes, I can continue about roadways, smart city, but maybe then
we can move to Christophe, and Christophe, maybe you can explain us what are you doing in Sickfox?
So my role in Sickfox is to drive country expansion, i.e. finding in the countries where we do not have Sickfox coverage, some partner that will introduce Sickfox services. So Europe is nearly covered already. One of the major countries that is still missing is Poland. And for transportation and logistics, this is a very important country, because Poland is highly connected with Western Europe countries for production, manufacturing, so big flows of logistics going back and forth.
And what is the technology that Sickfox is bringing?
So the technology is a very specific wireless technology that allows very simple devices, any kind of devices, but even very simple and low-cost devices, to use that wireless technology to report small amount of data. So that can be some tracking devices that report GPS indication. That can be temperature sensors that will help you monitor the cold chain. That can be monitoring traffic and the number of users, etc. It's all about extracting the data that are meaningful to improve the service that is provided without having to take care of the device. Actually, car is a high-tier product, but the need we see for logistics is that you want to know if your container is in the right port, if it's moving in the right direction, or there is a mistake, it's been loaded on the wrong ship. If it's been delayed, you want to be notified, because you may take proactive actions to manage it. So it's really these small things, containers, pallets, that you want to keep track of to be able to better react. And the transportation sector will be impacted by that, because if you know that your containers were not delivered, no need to send the trucks to pick them up. So it will reduce traffic, it will reduce pollution, and it will save money for the operating company. Mm-hmm. This is really underground things that are not visible, but that will generate both saving and improvement.
Yeah, because Artur, you started with talking about cars. It's not only about cars, of course.
Yeah, well, I'm starting from the one domain, but we have roadways, we have smart cities, and you started to talk about one of those transitions, which is optimization, once we have the data. And we may consider interesting examples, because those things do not happen very quickly. We know that roads this is heavy infrastructure. It's not changing over the day, but once it's changing, it makes sense to invest in something new. And we see impact of IoT for the roadway construction by adding various types of sensors, usually measurement equipment, which helps us to get information as quickly as possible, as precisely as possible. And example we have probably in many countries, the things are happening. I'm aware of a couple of those which are where my company was engaged. One of the modernization projects of the roads attached many environmental sensors, especially those which were able to measure the temperature in combination with the level of ice on the road, and then fog as well. Those things can be immediately transferred to the information boards for the drivers, informing them that, yes, on this particular road, within nearest 2 kilometers, there is ice on the surface. And it gives immediate result for the protection of our health. But this is the first level. In the near future, you will have message from this road towards your car. In your vehicle, you'll see on your screen warning, be aware, slow down, you have ice in front of you. And then in the future, which will be a bit later, you will have autonomous car, which will get this warning from the road system, and then you will not do anything. The car will slow down automatically, following the message coming from environment, which is exact, accurate, precise.
One of the challenges we see also is that for cars that are high tier, that can accommodate pricey equipment, quite expensive, they will be eager to collect this data. And the data will be generated by sensor that will be deployed in the field. The cost of the device needs to be carefully looked at, and their operational maintenance is also a challenge, because you don't want to send somebody changing the batteries every year or every 2 years. Basically, it should last for 5, 6, 10 years. This is really the key thing. So low-cost devices, low-cost connectivity solution, long battery life, ultra-long battery life. You deploy them, you forget them. And if we go that way, there are even some technologies that will harvest energy from the field, from the environment, from solar energy, from wind, from the gradient of temperature. There are some applications that are already harvesting enough energy, and the sensor can be autonomous using technology like Sickfox to report messages. Their lifetime is endless in that case.
I really like the technology you've talked about, Artur, but I see one obstacle, which are standards. There are different standards for different manufacturers, and then, okay, we can install many different parts of the systems everywhere, but they can't communicate.
That's about the convergence and compatibility, which today is one of the major challenges, because every vendor, every supplier tries to build a product based on own invention with scope of protocols which are sometimes standardized, sometimes they are under creation, and it's very, very versatile world. And we see this especially in the smart city area, where you have many suppliers for the parking systems, for the intelligent transportation systems, for even lighting systems in the city. And that's the way it is. It's going to stay as it is, because we will not prohibit people to invent new things and to build businesses within the same functional domains. So what to do with this? And this is probably one of the challenges which makes big slowdown of the adoption of those technologies, because behind it there is a cost. If you are an owner of the infrastructure and you need to attach another device, another system to plug something new, maybe this is creative, intelligent, very valuable, but still it requires additional cost for integration. That's why what happens right now in the industry, especially related to the IoT accommodation, is approach to build certain layer of the platforms, IoT platforms, which are dedicated to accommodate this differentiation, normalize, standardize, and it gives certain foundation base for the applications which can use what is already inside. And this is also one of the areas where Cisco plays the role, because we see this variety of different solutions, and we see how important it is to help customers in the market to avoid this big issue of plugging, attaching, integrating. There are some ideas behind it. It's too complex to talk about this right now.
Christophe, do you see the same problem?
Yes, definitely. There is a need for the customer to have an abstraction layer. They don't need to bother what's the techno that is behind. They only care about extracting the data in the best possible way for them. And there will be 4G, there will be 5G, they will try to define some standards. There will be some other services like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, etc. The key thing is to understand that there is no one techno-fits-all. There will be a combination of things, and probably one of the challenges is to gather the data, aggregate them, and they will choose whatever techno is really the best fit for their needs.
Both your companies work on technologies that are behind new services, and who is the end client? Is it the public sector or is it more private sector?
We hear about smart city, but it's really moving slowly because the investment and the return on investment is not clear. So we work with partners that are more B2B and industrial partners that have real logistic and supply chain issues. They know the cost of having data. We work with Michelin, for instance. Michelin, they need to track their logistic around the world. They know that having access to the data of where the containers are costs them 3.7 kilo euro per tire. When they lose a container, when they don't get what they need to build the tire, this is how they estimate the cost, because they can't deliver to their customer. And we had a project with them. They implemented Sigfox-based devices. The cost of getting the data they need was €8 per year per tire. So €8 per year per tire to get the data versus 3.7 kilo euro of direct improvement. This is how we work. And by working with B2B partners that have specific supply chain logistic issues, we're paving the way.
I guess with Cisco it's the same. It's the private sector which is more interested.
Private, but also municipalities. But of course, it's true that partners who are offering the technology, but end goal is to make our life in the city more efficient, more, I would say, use the tools which are more useful. So at this point of time, we participate in the projects where cities already deployed combined multimodal transportation systems to allow citizens flexible commuting with up-to-date information about existing location of the vehicles, different means of transportations, I mean buses, trams, bikes from the sharing industry, also car sharing. Those things are combined within the same, let's say, technology infrastructure. And for the end customer, like inhabitants of the city, this is smartphone application which gives what is needed, yes? From point A to point B, using those transportation means, the best, the most optimal, and the cheapest route. And that's the way how this may help us on daily basis as inhabitants of the city. But the different type of services are dedicated to the, let's say, car drivers as consumers. We are consumers, all of us, yes? So if we think about the future, technology can give us many creative ideas how those connected cars and IoT can bring to our life as some fancy use cases. For instance, let's imagine that we are driving, let's say, to work, and we are sitting in an autonomous car, and suddenly we are getting video call, because in the cars we have a big LCD screen. In most of them, today we have already. And for instance, my wife is calling me, and she's in the store wearing new dress. And she tells me, "Dear Artur, do you remember that we have anniversary today?" And okay, I can appreciate my wife looking at her through the video communication, but then I need to do something with the gift. But I'm going to work. I don't have enough time. So I can use application which is offered by my car to select some gift, because I have enough time. I do not drive. And then I can order the gift. Once I'm arriving to my final destination, I'm leaving the car, or car is parking itself somewhere. And then in the meantime, logistic company can using either drone or maybe still physical support of the courier, can bring my gift to my trunk into the car. Trunk can get open automatically, and courier can leave the gift into the trunk. So when I'm going back from my office, I have a gift already in the car. And I'm happy, my wife is happy. So this is imaginary example, but isn't it possible? It is true. I mean, today, video communication from the car, to be honest, I shouldn't say so, but I keep using this from the smartphone. So it's not a big challenge to have this embedded into the vehicle services. This kind of service from the courier, putting the package into the trunk, we are engaged with in the projects with two leading market leaders from one side car manufacturing, from the other side logistics, where they piloting this kind of solution. That you may have service where your car is taking care about your gift from the courier. Yeah? That's the way it is. So those things are happening. Question mark is when it's going to appear as a service, and this is still ahead of us.
Dear sirs, to sum up our discussion, who should be the leader of the change right now in the transport industry? Should those be the old companies that exist on the market, or maybe startups, or maybe technology companies?
I would say the drivers that will bring the changes are the companies that have specific needs and pain points, and they need 4 ways to address them. So they will generate the demand, and some companies like Sickfox, like some other companies providing specific devices, they will answer that, and they will bring improvement that will generate the breakthrough for them. Once done, the solution can be quite generic, and they can be reused everywhere. So I really believe, I don't see smart cities so much as a leader, but specific segment driving improvement that can be used everywhere.
Artur?
Well, if we consider IoT as the bottom line of the discussion, there is one important thing to consider. Nobody today is an absolute leader. So the success of the project needs to be driven by the partnership of various stakeholders. Sometimes small startup is very meaningful for the final result, but without the big partner, big company, the story cannot be successful. And that's just for all of us to consider, because today, even being ambitious, we should be very careful about building those projects and think about who can be in the same boat, because it drives success.
Artur Czerwiński from Cisco and Christophe Durand from Sickfox. Thank you very much for the conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.